All right, welcome back everyone, and we are on the boat today to change the oil. So this is the first time that I've started the engine after the winterization. Right now it's mid-April and it looks like we're done with freezes for the rest of the year. So time to start the engine, check everything, make sure everything works, and change the oil. So there are a couple schools of thought on how to change the oil and whether or not you should start the engine before or after. Some people say that if you start the engine before you change the oil, you're running all the oil through the engine, but you are heating it up, which makes it easier to extract. If you don't start the engine before you change the oil, you're letting all the oil sink to the bottom, and you get all the contaminants and stuff. You're not running them through the engine again. Everything is in the oil pan, but it's harder to extract the oil. Normally what I do is I don't start the engine and I just go ahead and suck the oil out. I have this pump thing here that I use to extract the oil. This thing works great and I haven't had any problem sucking cold oil out with it. But for today, what I wanted to do was start the engine first, because I'm going to send the oil away to this place here. And this is called Blackstone Labs, and they will test your oil. There's like a little container in here and you fill that up with oil. You send it to them. They'll test your oil to see whether you have water, antifreeze, different particulates, metal, and they'll tell you like what percentage or how many parts per million or whatever you have of those things. So it can give you some kind of indicator about the health of your engine. Especially if you do it multiple times. I think if you did one and you as a baseline, and then later on you did another, then you could tell, if you have like more pieces of metal in there, then maybe you have some excessive wear or something like that. But so I'm going to try this out. I think it's like $20 or something, and you fill this up, send it to them, and then they send you the results back. So I'm gonna with the oil that I'm extracting, I wanted to make sure I get it all mixed up. So if there is like a high concentration of any thing in there, it's spread throughout the oil rather than being like metal particulates sinking all the way to the bottom, and then I end up having like a high level of metal if I suck out just the stuff from the bottom. So I'm going to start extracting the oil with this, and take what I get out of here and put it into this thing, and then send it to Blackstone Labs and have them test. So this is what I use to extract the oil. This is a West Marine pump. I used to use like a smaller hand pump, and that thing was a pain in the butt because it took forever to pump. This thing actually came with the boat when we bought it, and the way that this works is this tube here goes down into the dipstick tube, which on this engine is over here on the left side, and you start pumping this and it creates suction in there, and you can create enough suction with this where you just have to pump it a few times and it will just keep on sucking the oil out of the engine. Really simple process. That in the dipstick tube, pump that a bunch of times and try to get as much oil as I can. So before I start draining it, I'm going to remove the filler cap, and that way they can let some air into there so the oil can drain. I like to take, when this thing is open, I like to cover this, because I have had in the past, not on a boat, but on a car, I've actually had one time where I accidentally dropped something down in there. And that's not a good thing, because that means the whole head's got to come off. Or not the head, but at least the cover has to come off. So I want to keep that covered up just so something doesn't drop from above down in there, because that could be a problem. Okay, so first things first is I need to get the dipstick tube out of here. There's that. And also I like to make a note of what the level of oil is in there when I take that out, because I'm going to have to put the same amount back in. So the easiest way to do that though is to see how much comes out in the pump, and then just put that same amount back in, then check the level, and then adjust from there. This thing does not burn oil. It doesn't use oil really at all, so the level never really changes for me. But if you did burn oil, you'd want to make sure that you get it up to the right level. So next, this thing here has a thin hose and then the thicker hose. The thin end goes in there, and I've had problems with these breaking and they kink, and I actually had to cut a kink out of this one, so it's a little shorter than usual. but that goes into the dipstick tube, and I want to try to feel it to make sure it gets all the way down in the bottom of the oil pan. And you can kind of feel once it goes in, it's going to take a couple turns. I also want to see if I can get it facing toward the back of the engine, since that's going to be the deeper part of the oil, where all the oil is sitting. But sometimes it's really hard to get this thing to maneuver the way you want it. So I think what I'll do is take this off, and that way I can turn it and just try to get it as deep in there as I can. I think I got it. You want to also avoid having it come down, hit the tube, and then come back up. So you want to make sure that it gets in there as flat as you can. It's not really a lot. There's not really a lot that has to go in there to reach the bottom. So you want to make sure you don't get too much. Once you start pumping, you can do some adjustment with this and make sure that you're moving it around and getting as much out as you can. So now that that's in, now I'm going to pump this. And now you can see I've already got oil coming up the hose. And right now there's a positive pressure in this thing, so it's just going to keep on sucking that out. Pump it a few times, and now I can adjust this. I can feel the oil is nice and warm, and you can see the level filling up there. And right now I can hear air starting to get in. So that kind of indicates where this thing, where it's at. And keep adjusting it until I don't have air. One of the things I think that this thing doesn't tell you on the side how much is in there, which is unfortunate. I have to pour it into another container to get that. So right now I'm just getting all air. I'm going to try to reposition this a little bit. I'm going to let the oil sink a little bit more and then keep pumping it. But that's pretty much the process, is pump this, move this around a bit so you get oil or air, or all air. Check the level on here, see how much you got here, and then that's how much has got to go back in the engine. But that's about it. Pretty easy to change the oil this way. Here's what you get from Blackstone. You get this container here, and I guess you're supposed to put the oil in this one, and then put that in this plastic bag, and then put everything inside this container. And inside here, looks like there's some sort of absorbent thing here, in case, I guess, if you did have a leak, they could contain the oil in here. So this is the container, though, that the oil needs to go into, and they give you like some instructions here on how to do this. You could actually, I think it gives you instructions if you want to do a sample and leave the current oil in, which I'm not. I'm doing it as an oil change. So then they do some testing, and then they send it to you. So I have to fill out this form, and it tells you or yes or no questions on what you did, and then any comments, and then you send this with your sample, and you just put it in this bag that they send, like a pre-addressed bag to you. So that's the next step. So now I'm ready to start refilling, and I use this Shell T4 15W40 for this. It's for diesel engines, and this one fortunately does have an indicator on the side, so you can see how much oil that you have in here. So I usually take this. There's about a quart left in here. So this engine is supposed to take 3 quarts. So with 1 quart in here, and then I got another full one. I'll take 2 quarts out of that. But you can see on the side how much is in here, so that helps a lot. So I'll take this one, and I'm going to make sure I got a quart in there. So I got 1 quart. Dump that in there. And then I'm going to have to look on here. Once I get this empty, I can take this one and just dump it in here and see exactly how much I have that I've taken out, minus the sample that I'm going to take. So that one's empty. So now I can just dump that in here and then read how much I have on the side. All right, oil change is done, and I keep this thing here, the hose, tied up there for a day or a couple days to let that drain into the container below, because otherwise that drips all over the place. So I'll let it drain for a while. As far as what I've got next to do, I've started making a list of things that I need to get done. That just kind of things not necessarily have to be done, but today I went through the engine and checked everything out. Everything seems to be working. Checked all the other systems like the autopilot and the instruments and all those things, and everything seems to be working fine. They have not turned on the water at the dock yet, so as soon as they do that, I want to get the water tanks filled and empty all the antifreeze out of the fresh water. So the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to clean out the freshwater lines, which means pumping some bleach water through those lines. So at some point as soon as they get the water turned on here, I'll be doing those things as well. So pretty much everything seems to be in order and everything's working. Knock on wood. A couple of things that I got to get done, and I'll be sending that oil off to be tested here this week, and I'll do a separate video on the results. So stay tuned. The next video maybe, or the one after that, depending on when I get the results back, I'll go over what the results say and how healthy or not the engine is. So that's all I've got for you today. I will see you folks some other day. See ya.